Let's talk this brand new 0 miles on the odometer 2027 Honda CBR1000RR. It's a fantastic opportunity to get our hands on this motorcycle this early on. As of the time of recording this video, we are in July of 2026, so pretty far away from 2027, and there aren't any contents out there about this motorcycle on YouTube or Facebook. I haven't seen a single review video of this motorcycle, which is great because that creates a very unbiased content here. Once a couple of these famous social media influencers put up videos, whether paid or not paid by Honda, they sway you positively or negatively towards this bike, you tend to believe them. But now we haven't watched anybody else say anything about this motorcycle, and we're going to truly analyze everything on this motorcycle. And when the time comes, we'll compare this to the competition, the ZX-10R, the GSX-R1000, the Yamaha R1, all the other bikes in its class, especially Japanese-made bikes, and we're going to see how it stacks against the rest of them. But a little bit about the history and context of this motorcycle. In 1992, early 90s, I think it was 1992, Tadao Baba, the original father of Fireblade's lineage of motorcycles from Honda, wanted a bike that rode like 600cc motorcycles but was closer to a liter bike, so he came up with the CBR1000RR, which was a hit. And from there, Honda upgraded it to the 929RR, which I had one of, a fantastic motorcycle. I had one that was yellow and black, looked like a bee. Very funny looking motorcycle now that I think about it, but it was a fantastic motorcycle. And then Honda went to the 950RR motorcycle, and since 2004, this motorcycle has pretty much been a liter bike. It's been the CBR1000RR. But continuous improvements have been made under the skin to this motorcycle and visibly on the outside. This is the 5th generation of the CBR1000RR. The first one being from 2004 to 2007. The first generation looked pretty handsome and awesome until in 2008, all the way to 2011, Honda messed the CBR1000RR's design up. I think that was the second generation. That was the ugliest CBR lineup. The third generation followed after that, 2012, all the way to 2016. Again, Honda improved the looks, and some modifications were made to the bike to make it a little faster. And for the fourth generation, 2017 Honda CBR, all the way to 2019, that was even a bigger improvement to the motorcycle. Looks-wise, I really like that generation. And the generation you're looking at right now, the 5th generation, has been the model since 2020 to now. But anyways, with all of that, it's time to take a look at this motorcycle in particular. So this is what we're going to be doing today. We're going to go wheel to wheel and everything in between on this brand new 2027 Honda CBR1000RR, and see for about $17,100, just MSRP without all the taxes, fees, freights, charges, and all dock fees and whatever else they charge you, what you're expecting to get from Honda in 2026 for the 2027 model. Then we're going to get on it, go out there and ride this motorcycle a little bit to get a feel for what the CBR1000RR is like. Let's go. Let's start off by talking about what's powering this motorcycle. Under the hood here, you have a 999cc liquid-cooled inline 4-cylinder engine that makes about 187 horsepower and about 83 foot-pounds of torque. Very acceptable numbers for a super sport bike, a liter bike. The horsepower figure is not the best in its class, though. If you're going to really be nitpicky here, it is actually dead last. Compared to the R1 that has about 198 horsepower. You have the GSX-R1000 number 2 at 195 horsepower, ZX-10R at about 190 horsepower, and this motorcycle at 187. But torque-wise, this one and the R1 tie together for 83, and Suzuki and ZX-10R are slightly less, about 81 to 82. Again, these numbers are not that different. On the street, and riders that are my skill level, you're not going to be able to tell the difference at all. Moving down over here, you're going to see this little protrusion here, this plastic looking thing that seems like it could get unscrewed and come off, which it does. And what it is a dipstick. It's as though you are working on a semi-truck here. All the other motorcycles that I have seen, Suzuki, Kawasaki, Yamaha, they all have a little window here that shows you the amount of oil you have. In this motorcycle, you don't have that window. You actually have to sit here for a solid minute, unscrew this little cap, It's threaded a long ways, so you really have to sit here, without exaggeration, maybe 30 seconds. Unscrew this little cap, and when you do, you can carefully remove this dipstick and take a look at how much oil you have on this motorcycle. Now, moving to the other side of this engine, you're going to have the 6-speed manual transmission on this motorcycle, and that's perhaps the most disappointing part of this motorcycle, is the fact that you're spending $17,100 on this bike and you don't even get a quick shifter either direction, up or down. And don't even talk about auto blipper. You're not getting that either. However, Honda does sell the hardware that you can plug into the motorcycle. I doubt a rider can do that. You have to probably take it to the dealership and spend a whole bunch more money to have it plugged in. It's selling, I think, for close to $600, just the hardware that's needed to make this motorcycle have quick shifter on it. So that's the only downside to this bike. You spend this much money. It's 2027 in this case. In the case of this motorcycle, it's a liter bike. Come on, Honda, give us a quick shifter, at least a single direction, up or down. Do that, but they haven't done it here. Now, one thing that I found really interesting in the owner's manual when it comes to the transmission and when you're supposed to change gears, there's a table there that tells you at what speed you need to switch your gears from, let's say, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. And it's funny because by the time you are going 37 miles per hour, you are already supposed to be in your 6th gear on a liter bike per the owner's manual. Now, a bike that can go over 100 miles an hour in its 1st gear, going 37 miles an hour in its 6th gear, rather an unrealistic expectations from riders who ride liter bikes. But anyways, coming out of the engine and the transmission, you get to this exhaust system. It's a beautiful exhaust system here, and you barely notice the presence of the catalytic converter. I remember just even up until a few years ago, catalytic converters on motorcycles were hideously massive. On this motorcycle, it's just a lump in the middle of the pipe that comes out of the engine headers and goes to the muffler. It's down there and it's hidden under this fairing. So technically, other than perhaps a little performance gain you would get from changing the entire exhaust system, you don't even see the catalytic converter for it to be an excuse for you to change this to an aftermarket system. I remember old bikes had a huge catalytic converter, and because of those, you had no choice but to spend a lot of money, get rid of the catalytic converter, and spend a lot of money get the aftermarket systems. On this motorcycle, the catalytic converter is so small, it's behind this fairing here, and you don't even see it. So it's fantastic. And you come out and you get to this much more attractive muffler than what Kawasaki keeps putting on their motorcycles. People keep calling them mailboxes that go on the Kawasaki's. On this one, it's very BMW-esque. But if you're interested in hearing how the 2027 Honda CBR1000RR sounds, well, take a listen. Moving up here, you have pretty typical stuff for a liter bike. You have this 120/55 ZR17 front tire and dual 320mm Tokiko calipers. I'm not sure if these calipers are better or worse than Stylima's from Brembo. Those of you who have perhaps two bikes, you have compared Brembos to these guys, let us know in the comment section if these brake calipers work better or worse than Brembo's. But at any rate, you come up here and you have upside down Showa forks, fully adjustable, compression, damping, tension, preload. All of these are adjustable here, down here, and on the triple tree itself. They're manually adjusted. There is no connection, electronic connection of these forks, these suspensions to any ride modes. You have to just adjust them manually, which is not unheard of on this price point. Of course, it's pretty common. But once you go to the triple R Fireblade, at $30,000-ish, you are having electronic suspensions. The ZX ZX-10R, the Yamaha R1M, all those higher tier super sport motorcycles do have electronic suspension. Coming back here, again, like the front end of this motorcycle, you don't have anything special going on. You have a double-sided swing arm, you have a 190/50R17 rear tire, you have a fully adjusted unit ProLink suspension with about 5.5 inches of travel, which is very typical again for a super sport motorcycle, and you have a chain drive on this side and a 220mm single disc rear brake caliper on the other side of the motorcycle. Nothing fancy, just the things that work and can keep the cost of this motorcycle low when you purchase it. And if you take it to the track and if you have some sort of accident and you have to replace all these things, you don't have to give up an arm and a leg in order to replace the parts that were on this motorcycle. So pretty acceptable front end and rear end equipment on the 2027 CBR1000RR. Now moving up here, you're gonna get to this 5-inch full color TFT screen, a fantastic addition to this motorcycle. I think all super sport motorcycles should have a screen like this. And one of my favorite things here is the user letter, and you can put whatever word you want in this user letter selection here, whatever that you're working the hardest for, you can put that here, give you maximum motivation while you're racing around. As far as the design on this motorcycle goes, it's a very subjective topic, but if I want to speak personally, I like it. It's nothing crazy, it's not ugly, and it's not really attractive either. It looks modest, it looks Honda. You're not going to hate the bike, but you're also not going to fall in love with the design of it either. There are some daring actions taken across this motorcycle. Up here on the front fender, you'll see these holes that are on the left and right side of the fender. I don't know if they have any function, but they kind of look cool. They kind of break up that simple design of this fender. And coming up here, you have these air scoops, these flying buttresses, if you call them, next to the headlights that they channel air through. I assume these do have some downforce effects on the motorcycle. And of course, down here, these holes, I don't know which one is fake, which one is real, but one of these goes into the air box of the engine for the engine to breathe, to use it to burn gas. The only part of this motorcycle I have a little bit of a problem with is the back end, the rear end of the motorcycle. I think it looks outdated. Honda has kept the rear end of this motorcycle looking the same for decades now. The tail light barely looks like it's LED. I mean, the way they've designed it, it comes across as a halogen bulb with all that matte plastic layer on the outside. It looks a little outdated, but I assume it's not that expensive of a modification to just buy a aftermarket tail light on this motorcycle. And once you tail tidy it, you remove that entire plastic wrap on the back of the motorcycle, it will look much sharper. I like that, and I also like motorcycles that utilize this folding design of the mirror along with the turn signals on the mirror. I think that's prettier than when they put the turn signals on the bodywork of the motorcycle, where if you take it to the racetrack, you have to tape it up. Whereas if it's on the mirror, when you take the mirrors off and you go racing, the turn signals come off with it. Overall, it's a pretty attractive motorcycle. Also on the gas tank, you will see there is a plastic panel where your helmet sits when you're tucking behind the windscreen. When you're racing, if your helmet starts scratching the surface, it's easy to replace, it's cheap to replace. Overall, the motorcycle is really narrow, which helps it be more attractive. This is a relatively tall and narrow motorcycle with very MV Agusta and Ducati-esque of a design. But overall, the design of this motorcycle is pretty awesome. And with all of that out of the way, I think you and I are ready to take this motorcycle out on the road and give it a try. But before we do that, a huge shout out to Everett Powersports for allowing us to get our hands on this motorcycle, this fresh, brand new 2027 CBR1000RR, one of the first in the nation to bring one of these motorcycles into their inventory. That just shows how excited they are about motorcycles and how enthusiastic they are to keep their inventory updated. I'll leave a link in the description section to their dealerships. Go check them out, all the sales and ongoing promotions they have. Take advantage of those. Maybe they have the bike you've been looking for in their inventory. Everett Powersports. And with all of that, let's go and ride this bike. It's much narrower. You're gonna notice that, like, first thing that you notice when you ride this motorcycle is how narrow it is. Especially coming off a Ninja H2 with all of its winglets and whatnot on the side. This motorcycle not having any of that is very narrow. Okay. Per the owner's manual, right now I need to be in the 6th gear. Any speed above 37 miles per hour, which is ridiculous. My little user word, the IRS, is on the screen. What gives me motivation to wake up every day and go to work, truly. Okay, so you can see the 4 parameters that the ride mode manages. P, T, W, E, B. P is the power mode, 1, I think, through 2 and 3. T is Honda Selectable Torque Control, HSTC, which is a fancy word for traction control. And W is for wheelie control, and EB is for engine brake control. Awesome. The bike roars. The sound of that exhaust system is fantastic. I really like how it sounds. Let's make a U-turn here. Brakes are normal. I just did a pretty good braking, and it feels like the Brembos that I have on my Ninja H2. Again, I'm taking it really easy on this motorcycle because this is not a demo bike and it's not my bike. It will be unjust to the next owner if I take it too hard and not break the engine in properly for the next owner. So, yep, I'm pressing the pedal up and down. There is no quick shifter on this motorcycle. It sounds and feels very Ducati-like. I don't know how to describe it. This narrow motorcycle, pretty tall, center of gravity is pretty high. The raw throttle response really reminds me of the early 2000s Ducati motorcycles. And the sound of that exhaust. Let's take a listen again. Yeah, it's pretty good, pretty good. That moment of over-revving was because I thought it has quick shifter. It doesn't. It needs a minute of adjustment for me to come from a bike that exclusively uses quick shifter onto a bike that doesn't have it. It's really quick. It's a liter bike, of course. If I buy this motorcycle, I'm for sure ECU flashing it. Why would you not want to get the most out of your liter bike? Very comfortable. Like if I sit normally, not tuck in, I can almost sit upright, which is pretty awesome. The mirrors are big. They're huge. You can see everything through them. That's awesome. I mean, I forgot to even adjust them when I got on this bike, and yet they still worked for me because of how much area they cover behind me. Fantastic motorcycle. I mean, it's Honda CBR1000RR. You cannot go wrong with this motorcycle.